Well, hi, everyone, and welcome to This is Manitoba. I'm Marcy Markusa, your host, and if you're a regular listener to the podcast, you know that everything we do on this podcast is about Manitobans, and we like to center it around a question that matters here on Treaty 1. And today it is this: what does it take to be part of that next generation of Indigenous leaders in Manitoba? We've got a great conversation with three people who can answer that well. They say it goes well beyond panic. Three young changemakers are going to share what helped them become leaders. One says overcoming internalized negativity was a big part of it. Also on today's podcast, something to make you smile. For the kids at Niji Mahkwa School here in Winnipeg, every day is Indigenous Peoples Day, when smudging is as commonplace in your house as pouring a cup of coffee. So that's all on today's episode. Let's get started, though, with that conversation with those three young leaders. Southern Chiefs Organization Youth Chief is Billy Bird. He is from Peguis First Nation. He is 18 years old, and he grew up with political leadership all around him that led him to take action. Also in the conversation, Hevyn-Lee Martens of Broken Head Ojibwe Nation, who's a youth counselor there for Treaty 1 and a student support as well over at Red River College. She says she's overcome a lot of adversity to get to where she is now. And Salena Starling, a self-described foster care survivor, her language, she's launched her own company. It's called Community of Big Hearts, which offers education and workshops on truth and reconciliation. They are all more than equipped to answer our question about the next generation of leaders here. We're calling this our half hour of overachievers. All three of you are amazing. Salena, why don't I start with you? Why is it important to have youth voices advocating, first of all, for Indigenous issues, do you think?
I've noticed that even when I was younger, I never heard enough youth representation, especially Indigenous youth. And now that we have, as you say, many overachievers, it's important for us to shed light on the survivals that we bring to the table, the accomplishments, the resilience that we truly have. It's important because we never saw this representation for the past few decades. And now that we're all coming in abundance, it's important for us to get our voices out there.
Would you agree, Hevyn-Lee, that sort of when you were younger, did you feel like maybe there weren't a lot of like youth advocating, and now there's this moment in our country and in our province?
Yeah, for sure. You know, I really felt that lack growing up. It was really prevalent, you know, and it was part of why I felt so uninspired, I guess. You know, like I had dreams, but also I didn't try because it seemed like they were just unachievable. So, you know, and so now, like as she said, they're all coming out in abundance in all sorts of fields, and it's really empowering and inspiring to see so many people, you know, just being themselves and bringing change. It's incredible.
Billy, you had a slightly different experience just because you grew up with sort of a lot of advocacy around you, right? So would you have grown up going to like different events and even protests sometimes? Oh, we've lost your audio there. I think you're on mute.
Oh, my fault there.
Oh, it's okay. No worries.
Yeah, so a lot of the times when I was younger, I would attend these gatherings with my mother and, you know, my sisters. And, you know, I didn't quite understand at the time, like, that they meant something, you know, that they were symbolic. And they had great importance behind it. You know, as I continued on through my young years, I started to realize that, you know, these events and these awareness walks and these protests, you know, they weren't just symbolic, but they were a part of my training to want to become an advocate for the Indigenous youth.
In terms of your view of your culture growing up, Salena, you know, also because of not sort of having, as you said, some of the people to look to when you were younger, what did it leave you with as a young person in terms of what you thought was possible?
Yeah, growing up, I had an immense amount of internalized racism, so I never had the opportunity to see my community thrive and succeed, especially being an urban Indigenous person. I was always surrounded by the ideas of my people in the worst light possible, and I never had the opportunity to reconnect with my culture, to even have Indigenous people to look up to, including my own family. So the fact that I never had that, it didn't give me the hope or inspiration to know that I could do anything. And it was only in the very recent years that I had the opportunity to reconnect with my culture and to even see that it's possible to move forward.
Is that what gave you the hope then?
Yes.
Was it turning for you?
Yeah. I think once I was able to look at my internalized racism and overcome that, it was a big turning point in my own life where I was able to feel hope that I was going to succeed, not just because I was an Indigenous person, but because I was a human. I was going to have that opportunity to move forward, to succeed.
What was your turning point, Hevyn-Lee? Like, where did the hope come for you, especially because you also alluded to the fact that when you were younger, you sort of didn't see it?
Yeah, because I grew up in the North End, and I was also kind of surrounded by negative stereotypes, both from other people and my own family. They also had that internalized negativity. And so it wasn't until I had honestly moved to my community, moved to the res, and at first I was, really upset because I had grown up in the city, I'd lost everything, it was a big change. But being out there in the land and being truly surrounded by my people, my community, it really changed how I viewed it. Going to a powwow for the first time, hearing the drum, it really lit something in me. Like, I feel like that's something that everybody who has intergenerational trauma and who has been separated, they have that moment where they hear it for the first time, and it's like, it's indescribable, but when you feel it, you know what it is and the importance of it, and it's like a coming home, almost a healing. And so it wasn't, like I said, until I moved home, which is funny because people who grew up on the res are, they want to leave, right? But meanwhile, I was like, now that I moved to the city for school, I miss it so much, right?
Billy, you were elected Southern Chiefs Organization Youth Chief, as we've mentioned here, and you're 18, right, I think, right now? Yeah. Why is it important for Indigenous youth to take up leadership roles in community?
Well, I think it's important for Indigenous youth to step up in the leadership roles because, we are the generation that is inheriting these decisions. We are the ones that are going to be taking over after these decisions have been made. And I think it's vital and important that our youth are a part of these conversations. And, as youth chief, I feel it's my due diligence to advocate for that, to advocate for the youth to be at the table, to hear those conversations. We need to be able to nurture our children as they once were nurtured back in our natural laws. We took care of our children, we walked with them, and I still believe that today, that we need to be nurturing our children, walking with them every step of the way. And I say this a lot, but like, Indigenous youth are rising, and we are going to continue to rise. And in order for that to happen, the youth need to be part of the conversation. The youth's voice need to be heard.
What does tomorrow mean to you, Indigenous Peoples Day? What will you be reflecting on, Salena?
Tomorrow, I'll be reflecting on my own family and my own experiences. I know that many people have heard the story about how my mom passed away, and she froze to death here in Winnipeg because she was dealing with homelessness. And I'll be reflecting truly on my family's journey. My sister actually just graduated high school, and she's 22, so I'm going to be celebrating the wins of my family, but also the hurdles we've had to overcome to get here. And so for me, it's going to reflect on my background and where I came from, and truly how I became Salena Starling.
How about for you, Hevyn-Lee?
Similar to her, kind of, I'll be celebrating and really spending time with my family and my partner, because my sister and I, we both graduated college this year. I have other family members who've also graduated, and this is like, it just means extra because we're all, a first gen, but we're all doing it at the same time, and we're all graduating at the same time.
So cool.
And so it's like, it's really important, and we got to celebrate our achievements and our resilience and our culture, right? So I just really want to take the time to be with my family and celebrate everything.
And you, Billy, what are you going to be thinking about tomorrow? What are you going to be doing tomorrow?
So I think of tomorrow as empowering. Tomorrow is a reminder that we're still here, we're still strong, and we're still carrying the weight of the beauty of our nations. It's not just a celebration. I think it's a commitment, a commitment to keep learning, to keep standing up, and to keep protecting our way of life. It's a day to honor our ancestors and to serve our people, but also to walk forward with clarity, not just for the moment, but for the generations ahead. And I feel although, tomorrow will be a good day of, smiles, laughters, empowerment, and it's just going to be a beautiful day to see my culture celebrated, to see our people celebrated, you know.
Salena, why is it important to have a day like National Indigenous Peoples Day for everyone to recognize, in your view? Because I know you've thought about this a lot, because some people say, why do we need this? You've heard that.
Yeah, I work all across Canada, so I see different types of views of people who don't understand the importance of this day and people that are very empowered to learn more. I find that with my work federally, with the provincial and federal governments, that it's so important for us to get this voice out there. But for just the everyday person, many people don't understand that this is a part of reconciliation, that our own education, unlearning, relearning, and listening is a part of reconciliation. And that's exactly what tomorrow needs to be for everybody, is the ability to unlearn what you had thought Indigenous peoples were, relearning the truth, and then getting to listen to stories. I think that's what tomorrow needs to be and has to be, is the ability to take that next step in your reconciliation journey.
In Hevyn-Lee, you're talking about hoping to inspire in Indigenous youth, with your own story, but you were inspired by, I think it was a Zach Whitecloud story years ago that kind of stayed with you?
Yeah, it was 2 years ago. I think I was at the AMC youth gathering they had when I was running for their youth council, and he was one of their guest speakers. And something that stuck with me was like, he was taking questions from the crowd, and someone had asked him if he had like ever dreamed of being in the NHL, and he was very honest. He was like, I never did, because it was like something that I didn't think was achievable for someone like me. And that really like resonated with me, because as I said earlier, I was the same, I wanted to be like, as every little kid did, like an actor, performer, something, famous, right? And I didn't really have there wasn't a lot of representation in media with Indigenous people, so I didn't think that was possible. I never tried, never really worked towards that, because same as him, I didn't think it was unachievable. And so I want to be able to kind of flip that way of thinking, get rid of the learned helplessness that our people have, and just let them know that no matter what anybody says or whatever they try to do to you, just as long as you keep going at it and like working towards it, you can achieve whatever it is you want.
So that was SCO Youth Chief Billy Bird and Hevyn-Lee Martens, a youth counselor at Red River College, as well as Salena Starling, who's launched her own company called Community of Big Hearts. And I encourage everyone listening to check out their work online and check out their organizations. Obviously, it's not going to be the last that we hear from them. I'm Marcy Markusa. If you're new to the podcast, this is Manitoba. Welcome. And if you're here because you checked us out or heard us on Front Burner, welcome to you as well, to get a bit of a view and insight into our lives here as Manitobans. Next, we're going to even younger leaders. And these are some young students at Niji Mahkwa School that I'm talking about. For them, they say every day is Indigenous Peoples Day. And that is because it's just part of their lives. It's who they are. The school recently set up at the Urban Reserve, Naawi-Oodena, for a little celebration for National Indigenous Peoples Day. They had cake and pizza. They had this makeshift tipi made of branches and all kinds of different things. CBC's Sundance Horschig met with the principal and talked to some of the students to learn what cultural celebration means to them.
Bonjour, my name is Ruben Boulette, and I have the honor of being the principal here at Niji Mahkwa School. We're celebrating Indigenous Peoples Day today, but if you really think about it, what we do as a school is we celebrate Indigenous people every day.
Should we put it right there?
Niji Mahkwa School was started in the early 90s, and it was a grassroots movement for Indigenous peoples in the North End to have a cultural school where Indigenous students can learn their culture and ceremony in an urban setting.
My name is Leanne Dysart, and I'm the vice principal at Niji Mahkwa.
You see it?
Yeah.
The school's a really special place, and it's a very unique place in Canada. And it is a school that carries Indigenous values. It is about community.
And now the time is between 12 and 1.
And we're going to have cake soon, right?
With Indigenous Peoples Day coming up, what do you think that means for young people?
It's a time to celebrate who they are and be proud of who they are and get out and show that pride. Sometimes it's funny when people talk to us about celebrating a certain Indigenous, like the Indigenous Day or a particular event, and it's just who we are. It's just every day, right? So the culture aspect, smudging, it's just normal. It's what we do. It's nothing out of the ordinary.
As a school division, we said...
For us, every day is a celebration of indigeneity and coming together as Indigenous people and being a community of non-Indigenous educators and non-Indigenous educators, just to understand who we are in this time and place, and really what it means to be an Indigenous person in the city of Winnipeg.
Can you tell me about what you guys are doing here today?
Having fun. This is what I made. It's a tree trunk from Mother Earth. For the unicorn, I use sticks. For the bird, I use the seed. This is the wing and this is the little beak, and you can tell this is a grasshopper, which I'm not finished yet.
So with Niji Mahkwa School, a lot of the kids there, they celebrate their culture and you learn a lot about it. Why do you think that is important?
Because in the olden days, European people made us forget our ways. So people now are trying to make us remember those ways.
That was CBC's Sundance Horschig meeting with the staff and some of these students from Niji Mahkwa School here in Winnipeg. Well, that brings us to the end of our podcast. I don't know if you were inspired, but I just loved today's episode, and it means the future is going to be really bright here in our province when you hear from people that are doing so much good work. Thank you for taking the time to tune in, check us out, and listen. And if you want to, please consider giving us a follow, a like, and a share.